Today I'd like to talk about developing and deploying SSIS packages with Azure Data Factory version 2. So this could be a really short video because in a lot of ways not much changes at all. So if you're using Visual Studio and SQL Server data tools today for building your packages, that remains the same. That experience from the development side doesn't change at all. We've been asked occasionally about version control, so your version control, source control, it doesn't need to change. It's still the same development paradigm that we're used to. The only difference really is where we deploy to, which I'll talk about in a second. Another important thing to understand though about the development experience is that there is no separate version of SSIS required. So if you're building in the more recent versions of SQL Server data tools within Visual Studio, you know that you can choose to say, okay, I want to build this package in SSIS 2017 or SSIS 2014, or maybe I've got some SSIS 2012, and you can make that setting at the project level. And with SSIS and Azure Data Factory, any one of those versions will work. Okay, and so when you deploy your project and your packages out to the SSIS runtime in Azure Data Factory, part of that deployment process is an upgrade or migration of your packages to the current version of SSIS, which at this point is SSIS 2017. And that just happens automatically for you. So you don't have to change your version or anything in Visual Studio when you're developing. So if you're developing a SQL or SSIS 2014 package, for example, and you want to deploy that to SSIS in Azure Data Factory, you don't need to make any changes on the development side. Now, as far as deploying it, the deployment process is very similar to what we have today, deploying to on-prem. The biggest difference is that when you choose to deploy to an SSIS catalog hosted in Azure, you will be prompted for an authentication method. And so if you're deploying on-prem or if you're using an older version of SQL Server data tools, of course, we always had to use Windows authentication and there was no choice. And so now with the new tooling with Visual Studio, you now have a choice of what type of authentication you want to use when you're deploying your package out to the SSIS catalog in Azure. So that's about it. I mean, this was a pretty short one on purpose because the development and deployment experience of SSIS in the cloud really hasn't changed a whole lot. There are a lot of other changes with the platform, but the development side remains largely the same, which is great news. Thanks for watching today. If you want any more information about SSIS in the cloud or Azure Data Factory in general, please reach out to us at Pragmatic Works. We'd be glad to talk with you. Thanks again. Have a great day.